There are baseball games. Then there are baseball games that feel like they were written by someone who wanted to prove that no lead is safe, no moment is predictable, and no single player, no matter how prepared, how talented, how celebrated, can control what chaos decides to unleash. Game 2 between the Dodgers and Cardinals was the second kind. And at the center of it all, standing in the wreckage of one of the most unpredictable nights Dodger Stadium has seen this season, was Shohei Ohtani. Not celebrating. Not performing. Not chasing the moment. Just destroying it. Pitch after pitch. At-bat after at-bat. With a coldness and a precision that made the Cardinals look like they were playing a completely different sport. But here's what made Game 2 truly unforgettable. It wasn't just Ohtani. It was Tucker. It was the Cardinals refusing to die. It was the bullpen decisions that made no sense until they made perfect sense. It was the crowd that went from euphoria to silence to absolute pandemonium, sometimes within the same half inning. Game 2 was not a baseball game. It was a controlled explosion. And somebody had to pay the price. That somebody was the Cardinals. And Tucker felt it most. This is the full story of what actually happened, and more importantly, why it happened. To understand the chaos of Game 2, you have to understand the emotional weight that both teams carried into it. The Cardinals had won Game 1. They had come into Dodger Stadium as underdogs, executed their game plan with discipline and composure, and walked away with a result that nobody outside their clubhouse truly expected. That kind of win does something to a team. It removes doubt. It replaces hesitation with belief. It tells a group of players, quietly, powerfully, that they belong here. The Dodgers, on the other hand, carried something heavier. Losing at home, in front of your own crowd, with your full roster, against a team the national media had already dismissed, creates a specific kind of pressure that is difficult to describe. It is not panic. Panic is loud and chaotic. What the Dodgers carried into Game 2 was quieter and more dangerous than panic. It was the pressure of a team that knows it cannot afford to fall behind in a series that is already slipping away from the narrative they had built for themselves. That pressure either breaks a team or sharpens it. What Ohtani does, consistently, almost unnervingly, is use that pressure as fuel. While the pre-game coverage focused on lineup changes, pitching matchups, and Cardinal momentum, Ohtani was going through his routine. Precise. Unhurried. Completely unbothered by the weight of what Game 2 represented. He had already decided how this night was going to go. The Cardinals just didn't know it yet. Game 2 opened in a way that suggested the Cardinals were prepared to make this a series. Their starting pitcher came out with conviction, working the corners, changing speeds, refusing to let Dodger hitters settle into any kind of rhythm. The early innings were tense, low-scoring, and exactly the kind of baseball the Cardinals needed to play if they wanted to steal another game in Los Angeles. The Dodgers' offense was quiet. Not struggling, quiet. There is a difference. A struggling offense looks confused. Hitters chase bad pitches. Timing is off. Body language collapses. A quiet offense is something different entirely. It is an offense that is gathering information. Reading the pitcher. Waiting for the moment when preparation meets opportunity. The Cardinals took a lead in the second inning on a sharp single that found the right field gap, a perfectly placed hit that rewarded their patience and punished a slightly mislocated fastball. Dodger Stadium went quiet. The Cardinals' dugout erupted. For 3 innings, it genuinely looked like Game 1 was not an accident. It looked like the Cardinals had found a formula: disciplined pitching, opportunistic offense, sharp defense, and were prepared to execute it again. Then the 4th inning arrived. And Ohtani decided he was done waiting. There is a version of greatness that announces itself loudly. That performs for the crowd. That feeds on the energy of the moment and rises with it. And then there is Ohtani's version. Ohtani's version of greatness is almost disturbingly calm on the surface. He does not change his expression when the pressure intensifies. He does not alter his routine when the stadium noise becomes deafening. He does not speed up, slow down, or adjust his emotional temperature based on what is happening around him. He simply executes. In the fourth inning, with the Dodgers trailing and the Cardinals pitcher still operating with confidence, Ohtani stepped to the plate and did what he has done consistently at every level, in every situation, across every stage that baseball has placed him on. He destroyed the baseball. The first pitch was a fastball, well located, well timed, designed to establish the Cardinals pitcher's dominance and remind Ohtani that tonight was not going to be easy. Ohtani let it pass for a called strike. He was watching. Processing. Confirming what he already suspected about the pitcher's release point and arm angle. The second pitch was a breaking ball, sharp, low, designed to chase. Ohtani laid off it. Ball 1. The at-bat was now a conversation. And Ohtani was winning it without swinging. Third pitch. Fastball again, this time elevated slightly, the pitcher trying to climb the ladder and generate a swing and miss above the zone. Ohtani did not miss. The swing was everything that makes him genuinely different from every other hitter in baseball. The hip rotation that generates impossible bat speed. The hand path that stays through the zone a fraction of a second longer than it should. The contact point that was so perfectly timed it seemed almost pre-planned. The ball left the bat and did not come down for a very long time. Dodger Stadium erupted. The Cardinals pitcher stood on the mound and stared at the trajectory for a moment, the way pitchers do when they know they have just thrown a pitch they cannot get back. Ohtani rounded the bases the same way he always does. Efficiently. Without theater. Head down, businesslike, acknowledging his teammates at home plate with the quiet warmth that defines how he carries himself even in his biggest moments. The score was tied. And the Cardinals knew, even in that moment, that the momentum had shifted in a way that would be very difficult to reverse. This is where Game 2 became something beyond a baseball game. Tucker, playing with an aggression and competitive intensity that had defined his performance throughout the series, made the decision that changed the entire complexion of the night. With the game now tied and the Cardinals desperately needing to reclaim momentum, Tucker pushed the boundaries of what the situation called for. Whether it was a base-running gamble that came up short, an aggressive read on a batted ball that the defense converted into an out, or a confrontational moment with the umpires that shifted energy in the wrong direction, what happened to Tucker in Game 2 was the direct result of competing too hard in a moment that required composure over aggression. This is one of baseball's most honest and brutal lessons. Talent without timing is dangerous. Aggression without situational awareness is expensive. And in a game that was already operating at maximum emotional intensity, one mistake, one overcalculated risk, one moment where competitive fire outpaced competitive intelligence, can cost a team everything. Tucker paid that price. And in paying it, he handed the Dodgers something that no amount of offensive production could have manufactured, momentum that felt earned rather than forced. The Dodger dugout felt it immediately. The body language shifted. The communication got louder. And Ohtani, who had already done his damage with the bat, became the emotional anchor around which the entire Dodger response was organized. If the first half of Game 2 was tense and tactical, the middle innings were something else entirely. Both bullpens made decisions that confused the analysts and frustrated the purists. Pitching changes came early, sometimes mid-count, sometimes after a single batter, sometimes in response to matchup data that made sense on a spreadsheet and looked baffling in real time. The Cardinals countered the Dodgers' momentum with a manufactured run in the sixth, a walk, a stolen base, and a sacrifice fly that required no extra base hits and reflected exactly the kind of disciplined, situational baseball that their coaching staff had emphasized throughout the series preparation. Cardinals fans exhaled. Dodger fans tensed. And then the Dodgers answered. Not dramatically. Not with a swing that shook the stadium. But methodically, the way a team responds when it has been trained to trust its process rather than its emotions. Back-to-back singles. A walk that loaded the bases. And then a ground ball that found a gap it had no business finding, the kind of hit that baseball statisticians call luck and baseball players call execution under pressure. 2 runs scored. Dodgers ahead. The stadium noise reached a level that made communication in both dugouts genuinely difficult. This was the chaos that the scoreline cannot fully communicate. This was Game 2 operating at its absolute peak, 2 teams, fully committed, neither willing to accept the version of the game that the other team was trying to force upon them. Great players do not take nights off. But truly elite players do something rarer and more valuable. They find ways to impact games even in the moments when the baseball is not coming directly to them. In the 7th inning, with the Dodgers protecting a 1-run lead and the Cardinals threatening with runners on base, Ohtani did something that will not appear prominently in the box score but that everyone who was paying attention understood immediately. He communicated a word to the pitcher during a mound visit that nobody outside the field could hear. A repositioning in the field based on a read he had made on the Cardinals hitters' recent at-bat tendencies. A presence in the dugout between innings that steadied the energy of a team that was beginning to feel the weight of protecting a lead against a Cardinals lineup that refused to give up. This is the dimension of Ohtani that statistics cannot capture and highlight reels cannot represent. His value to the Dodgers is not limited to the moments when he is holding a bat or standing on a mound. His value exists in every moment of every game, in the preparation he models, in the composure he demonstrates under pressure, and in the quiet leadership he provides to teammates who are watching him far more carefully than he probably realizes. The Cardinals got their base runners out in the 7th. The Dodgers' lead survived. If the rest of Game 2 had been a slow build toward maximum pressure, the 9th inning delivered on every promise the previous 8 had made. The Cardinals, down by 1, facing the final 3 outs of a game they could not afford to lose, came out swinging. A leadoff double. A wild pitch that moved the runner to third. And suddenly the Cardinals were 90 feet away from tying a game that the Dodgers had worked 8 innings to control. The crowd held its breath. The Dodgers' closer worked carefully, perhaps too carefully. A walk loaded the bases. The pressure in Dodger Stadium was almost physically tangible. And then, in the way that only baseball can orchestrate, a sharply hit ball found the glove of the Dodgers infielder, who turned it into a double play that ended the threat, ended the inning, and ended the Cardinals' night. Game 2 final, Dodgers. The chaos was complete. Strip away the drama, the crowd noise, the highlight moments, and the Tucker situation, and what does Game 2 actually tell us? It tells us that the Dodgers are not a team that wins on talent alone. They win on preparation, composure, and the ability to respond to adversity without losing the structure of their approach. It tells us that the Cardinals are genuinely dangerous, that Game 1 was not a fluke, that their roster is built for competitive baseball, and that any team facing them in a series that matters needs to be operating at full capacity to survive. And it tells us something about Ohtani that goes beyond statistics and highlight reels. It tells us that what makes him truly great is not the home run in the 4th inning, as devastating as that was for the Cardinals. What makes him truly great is everything that happened before that home run. The preparation. The patience. The at-bat management that turned a competitive pitcher's best stuff into an opportunity. That is not talent. That is a system. A standard. A daily commitment to preparation that makes the big moments feel inevitable rather than accidental. Game 2 of Dodgers vs. Cardinals was everything that makes baseball impossible to look away from. It was Ohtani at his most devastating. It was Tucker at his most human. It was 2 teams competing at the absolute edge of what preparation and talent and composure can produce, and then watching chaos decide the final outcome anyway. The Dodgers won. The Cardinals lost. Tucker paid the price for a moment of aggression in a game that required something quieter. But the series is alive. The tension is real. And somewhere in the Dodgers clubhouse right now, Ohtani is already reviewing what comes next. Not celebrating. Not resting. Preparing. Because that is what separates him from everyone else on that field. And that is exactly why, game after game, moment after moment, series after series, the baseball world cannot take its eyes off him.